Hello everybody. In today's video, I'm going to be going over why and how usable is Windows 7 in 2025. So the first thing I'm going to answer is why. The answer is I just like it. I like Windows 7. I've been using it forever. Literally since since I started using technology. So I like this operating system a lot. I'm already super used to it, and I just grew up on it, and I really like it, and I don't have a reason to move away from it. Even though support ended 5 years ago, it still works perfectly fine for me. And I'm gonna show you guys how you can use Windows 7 in 2025 if you would like to, because it's very possible. It's very easy. It's not like it's not really obsolete like you might think. It actually works really, really well. So the first thing I'm gonna show you guys are some browsers you can use. First one is Supermium. Supermium is a browser designed for legacy operating systems. It works on Windows XP, and it works up to Windows 11. It's pretty much Google Chrome. This right here is Supermium, by the way. This browser I'm using right here is Supermium. It uses the Chromium kernel, so you're literally getting up-to-date Chrome updates. It's just not owned by Google Chrome. It's just ran on the Google Chrome kernel, so it's really reliable. It's really fast. You can use all the Google Chrome extensions. You can link your Google account. In fact, if I go here, you can see I have the latest version of this browser, which if I look this up, you can see this is a Chromium release, so it's pretty cool. Works really well. And of course, another browser you can use is Firefox. Firefox is still working up until September 2025 for Windows 7 and 8 and 8.1. So pretty nice, although most people use Supermium. If you go into the communities for Windows 7, like on the Discord communities or the Reddit communities or the websites for Windows 7, a lot of people are using Supermium because it's just a really good browser. So yeah, when it comes to browsers, Supermium and Firefox are your best bets. Next thing I want to go over are the communities. There are a lot of communities on Windows 7. So if I go to the Reddit, and I know this interface might look a little bit weird. This is the classic one, which I like it a lot. But yeah, people are constantly, as you can see, 20 hours ago, 11 hours ago, 13 hours ago, 19 hours ago, one day ago, 2 days ago, people are constantly uploading stuff onto this subreddit. So this subreddit is really active, probably the most active, like Windows 7, the most active Windows 7 like community, I guess we can call it. It's super active, so people are constantly asking for help on here, posting memes, just doing whatever related to Windows 7. Another website that's pretty active, it's not as active, but it's still somewhat active, as you can see from these dates. 1 day ago, 3 weeks ago, 13 hours ago. It's somewhat active, but you can go on this website. It's called the 7 Forums. It's literally a Windows 7 forum. There's tons of people just uploading stuff on here, which is pretty cool. So yeah, as you can see, the most users online ever, according to this, was 70,000. I find it hard to I don't think this is accurate. I find it hard to believe that there's 9,549 users online and that most of them are guests. I find it hard to believe, but the point is this website's pretty good as well. And then of course you also have the MSFN website, which is not as active. It's alright. I mean, you can still, people have uploaded stuff this year, as you can see. It looks like the last post was made 3 hours ago. So yeah, a lot of this stuff, I mean, this website isn't as active. If you really want to get help, I'd recommend you go to the Reddit, because people are constantly on here. I'm always on here too. So if you need help, maybe I can help you with something. And another thing is the Discord. So there's a Discord server right here called Windows XP Vista 7 fans. And now if you look right here, actually, it does say my Windows is out of date. Obviously, Discord stopped supporting Windows 7 like actually a year ago. So this is like the longest time overdue, but I don't really care because Discord works fine. So yeah, you have a lot of people on here constantly talking about Windows 7, so you're never alone on this series. You can always go in here. So these are like your little communities, I guess, if you need help with something related to Windows 7. I'd recommend, I would say, number one, go to this Reddit, and then I would also recommend you go to this Discord server, because this Discord server has a lot of people. So those are your two best bets. And these two other websites are alright. 7 Forms might be helpful, but like I said, I think the Reddit and the Discord server are the best. So when it comes to Windows 7. The next thing you're probably wondering is, what hardware do people who use Windows 7 use? I'm using a 9th gen Intel, which isn't really modern anymore, but at the time, which my CPU was released in like I think 2018 or 2019, even at that time, Windows 7 was already considered pretty old, and really there's no official drivers for anything past, I think, like 7th gen Intel. I'm literally using modified USB 3.0 drivers just for this system, or I'm using modified USB and modified chipset drivers, because there's no official drivers for my hardware, but it works really well. It works just fine. I've had literally zero problems, zero blue screens, zero anything with this PC. It works really well, and I got a 7.8 on the experience index. The highest you can get is 7.9. I think the CPU is the only thing that held me back from getting a 7.9. But if I go right here, as you can see, people also run Windows 7 on 15th gen Intels, or 14th gen Intel, I'm sorry. So you can run Windows 7, easily on modern hardware. And again, just look at this right here. Windows 7 on a 14900K. It's very easy to run Windows 7 on modern hardware. And you can even run it on the latest GPUs. If I go right here to GeForce.com, you can run Windows 7 up to the 3090 Ti, I believe. So if I go to drivers, by the way, I'm using a 970, and I go to 30, and you can see you have Windows 7 drivers right here. And the last time they released the driver, I think, was September 2024. Oh, July 2024. So yeah, they haven't done a driver for Windows 7 in a very long time. They don't do them anymore. They don't release drivers anymore, which kind of sucks. But I mean, like I said, I'm using a driver that's a year old, and it's working just fine for me. So I don't really have a problem with these drivers. Next thing I want to show you guys are gaming. So this right here is Steam. Obviously, Steam is not officially supported on Windows 7. I'm using a workaround in order to get Steam running, but with this workaround I'm using, it runs fine. The only thing that I'm going to say is that it's likely that most of these games probably don't even work on Steam. A few of them do, like Mirror's Edge works, Need for Speed works, because it's these games are old. Mirror's Edge and Need for Speed are old games. Obviously, let's be realistic. Using Windows 7, you're not going to be playing modern games. That's just not going to happen. But if you want to play older games, like let's say like pre-2020, you shouldn't have a problem doing that on Windows 7. I also have Minecraft right here, because you can see the software receiving updates in March of 2025, which a long time ago, but the latest release is 1.21.6. And then let me look up the release date real quick. It's funny because it says that support would end in 2025 in March, but the latest version 1.21.6 is literally still available, which was released on June 17th. So that's kind of funny that it's still available. You can still play this version. And if I go right here, you can see the system requirements for Epic are Windows 7 minimum, Rockstar Windows 7 minimum, and EA Windows 7 minimum. But that doesn't mean that the games require Windows 7 minimum. Remember that Windows 7 can only go up to DirectX 11, not DirectX 12. So you're missing some games on that. There's no ray tracing either, but you can get RTX drivers. So yeah, when it comes to gaming, Windows 7 should be able to suffice if you're doing basic games like Minecraft or just any game released before 2020. But if you're going to be doing DirectX 12, you're going to want to use Windows 11 for that for sure. Now when it comes to just software in general, Windows 7 is pretty good, I'd say. Now I'm not going to lie, a lot of the stuff I use, I do use older versions like Audacity, for example. I'm not using the latest version. NordVPN, actually, I'm using the latest version. The NordVPN surprisingly works on Windows 7 even today. Lightworks, which is an editing software, still works on Windows 7. Paint.net does not support Windows 7 anymore. The latest version does not. Discord doesn't, as you saw in my as you saw in the message earlier that was coming from the top. It doesn't support Windows 7 anymore, and that's pretty much it, really. Now, most software, I'm just going to be honest, does not support Windows 7, but if you just download an older version, that should be able to suffice and work fine on Windows 7. Next thing I want to talk about is security. So the first thing is an antivirus. I use Microsoft Security Essentials. I scan my system like once a week, and I get updates every single day. As you can see, the last time I got updates was literally July 28th, which was today. So I don't know why Microsoft is still releasing updates for this. I believe that the updates will stop once Windows 10 support ends, which is October 14 of this year. So in 3 months, so 4 months, Microsoft will no longer be releasing updates for Security Essentials, but that's not a problem because we have tons of antiviruses options like Avast, McAfee, and other antivirus options. There's a bunch, and I'm pretty sure Avast supports Windows XP. So if you are using Windows XP, you can use Avast and it'll still work. The next thing is a firewall, because obviously Windows Firewall is no longer receiving updates. I like to use this one. It's really just called Free Firewall, and it works pretty well for me. I just always have it enabled at all time, and you have a variety of options to choose for this firewall. I just leave it unenabled. I don't really mess with anything. So yeah, that's about it really. There's nothing else I can really tell you to do to be secure. You can always have a VPN. I have NordVPN here. And then of course, use an up-to-date browser. Make sure that you are constantly updating whatever browser you're using. If you're using Supermium, make sure you're updating Supermium. If you're using Firefox, make sure you're updating Firefox. And if you're using like some other browser like Pale Moon or something, make sure you're staying up to date on that browser as well. So yeah, when it comes to security, it's pretty easy. Another thing you can do is you can make a standard account. Now mine is actually an administrator, which is not very smart of me. I would recommend that if you have just make a second account, make that account an administrator, give it a strong password, and then make your account standard. That'll make it harder to abuse certain exploits in Windows 7. But honestly, that stuff is kind of just overboard in my opinion. I don't really think you need to go as far as making an extra account. I do believe that if you are an admin and you just know what you're doing and you're not doing crazy stuff on the internet, then you should be fine. So yeah, when it comes to security, it's mainly just protect yourself. Don't fall for traps. You don't really need to be protected by, these updates. Because if you just know what you're doing, you should be fine. Last thing I want to go over is what does the future hold for Windows 7? What's going to happen, later in the next few years. And I'm just going to be honest, I don't think Windows 7 will have a problem. I mean, if we're putting this much effort into making things like Steam work, because keep in mind that Steam is not supposed to work on Windows 7. And there's a lot of this stuff. Supermium, I think if we're making browsers literally for Windows XP, and keep in mind, there's people who use Windows XP to this day who are literally they're doing fine. The truth is, I don't really think it's that big of a deal if you're using an out-of-date operating system, whether that's Windows 7, whether that's Windows XP, whether that's Vista, whether that's 8. It doesn't really matter in my opinion. And I think that Windows 7 will last a very long time. I think that a lot of people just simply prefer Windows 7. Nobody really likes Windows 10. Nobody really likes Windows 11, and nobody really cares to use Linux. People just want to use Windows 7. It's simple, it's basic, and it's nostalgic, and it's beautiful. So who would say no to this operating system? It's just better in my opinion. And it's not to say Windows 7 is bad. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't think Windows 7 is bad. Same with Windows 11. I like both of them, but I just like Windows 7 more. It's more nostalgic. I grew up with it, and that's why I still use it to this day. And that's why I will never stop using it, because it's just, in my opinion, better. So next year, 2026, I'll probably make another video, explaining why I use Windows 7. Then, maybe there's going to be some things that'll change. Maybe Minecraft will no longer support Windows 7. Maybe a lot of things will get patched. Maybe eventually servers will start to shut down for Windows 7. Who knows what's going to happen? Either way, I'm still going to be using Windows 7, and I have no plans on stopping using it anytime soon, because it still works just fine for me. So with that said, thank you for watching this video, and have a great night. Another thing is that ever since ever since Apple came out with the iPads, Microsoft has just been trying to compete with Apple on this iPad stuff. They've been trying to integrate like tablet-like features into their computer operating systems, which is just not necessary, and it's not helpful at all. Whenever you have like a touch screen interface on a system that's designed for keyboard and mouse, it just doesn't make any sense. Windows 7 was really like the last operating system to have this keyboard and mouse interface. And actually, even Windows 8.1, even though Windows 8.1 had in some parts a tablet interface, for the most part it was very computer friendly. Like, it's mainly on the desktop, it was computer mouse friendly, and then on the start menu it was touch friendly, you know what I mean? So at least Windows 8.1 separated it. Whereas Windows 10 and Windows 11, it's more like some stuff is keyboard and mouse friendly, some stuff is touchscreen friendly, and it doesn't really make sense. Another thing that Windows 10 can just be confusing. Windows 10 and 11 can be confusing sometimes. They have a lot of duplicate stuff, like for example the control panel, PC settings. I just don't get, what was the point of replacing the control panel with settings? The control panel is perfectly fine, and I just don't get what was the point. It's funny because every time you use the control panel on Windows 10 or 11, it literally redirects you to settings. It's ridiculous. Like, really, you can't even do anything on the control panel on Windows 10 or 11. It'll just automatically redirect you to the settings at 99.9% of the time. So it doesn't even make sense most of the time. So that's just another thing that, in my opinion, is wrong with Windows 10 and 11.